All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everyone out there. February 28th, we have a 10-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, that'll be for free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. All right, in terms of how we made out yesterday, a 1 and 2 night, our added play, actually, Taurean Prince over 1.5 3-pointers made being the only one that hits. Kyle Kuzma, 1 of 5 from 3, so we're just a couple attempts off there from what I think was a good look, but ultimately an X, right? Naz Reid, though, 3 points. He went 1 of, I believe, 10 from the field, so tough one there. Jaden McDaniels did his part of the same game parlay, but I guess we got kind of lucky in the fact that, yes, we've had a couple really, really good days in a row that we were going full units on the board, and then yesterday we just do 3 half-unit plays, and it was a losing night, so I guess we get lucky there. That's the silver lining overall. It's not going to kill us. In terms of our ride of the day, let's pump in some crowd noise here. We have the look of the Warriors and their team total, which was kind of not a sweat, but it kind of looked like it was going to be a sweat at one point, right? But King Preezy, hopefully I'm saying that name right, comes through with the Warriors team total over 107.5. Yeah, like I said, kind of looked like a sweat, but ultimately you look back at it and it's not even like they scored 120 plus, right? So yeah, good for the Warriors, good for King Prezi. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day down in the comments. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. Give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to ride with your plays until you lose. If you lose, we do give you the shout out, but we got to talk about it. We also shout you out over on my X/Twitter, EvGuyBoston. It's right here on the screen, as well as the Guy Boston Sports site. But again, shout out to King Preezy. I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but very, very good look because they spanked this line last night. Pumping some crowd noise one more time. But all right, big slate to dive into. Before we do that, I will let you know, yes, I am traveling this weekend. I think you might only get 2 road videos, so just FYI. I know you guys don't like it when I travel, but I do have a life as well, so we will be doing hybrid videos for the next couple days, but you get a full video today, so let's not worry about the future. Let's worry about the present here, right? Let's dive into it. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Let's go ahead and rock. We have what I'd consider one of the better games on the slate here. Now, we do have a couple that are like, duh, that's better, but this should be a very good game here. Detroit, who is on an absolute heater right now. They've won 8 straight games. They've covered in 8 of their last 9 games. So really playing some good basketball, coming off of a dominant win against my Boston Celtics, and we can admit they spanked them around. Now, I will say one thing. I don't know how comfortable I am with Detroit as, favorites against these really good teams, I guess, and I would put Denver in that category. Denver is on a back-to-back. You might be thinking, oh, that's not really going to fare well for them. Quite the contrary on the season, though. In no-rest situations, they've covered in 72.7% of their games, so they've played really well. Detroit does have a nice little hit rate of 55% against the number when having a rest advantage, but overall, I do think that Denver, as long as they can manage the back-to-back well enough, I think that they should be able to bounce back here. Like I said, I like this Detroit team. They've made us a lot of green this season, right? Like, I'm not denying that they're a very good team. I'm a huge Cade Cunningham guy. I love Jalen Duren. Like, this team is very good. I don't know if they're laid 2 points against Denver, who might be fired up coming off of 2 out of their last 3 games being L's. I don't know if they're that good, especially when you throw in how these two teams play. Like, both teams like to mix it up down in the paint. Denver, #1 team in terms of scoring in the paint this season. We'll see if Detroit can kind of, hinder them a little bit. The last time we saw these two teams play was back in late December. Now, that was obviously before Detroit went on this run, but Denver beat them by 13 points, and that was in Denver. So obviously that's a little bit of a throw in there. But again, this is kind of multiple factors. Denver being okay on back-to-backs this season, I'll give them credit there. Them being able to counter what Detroit is doing in the paint. And then secondarily, I think that, coming off of a loss, even though they're on a back-to-back coming off of a loss, may fire them up a little bit. And I'll be honest, even though I do like this Detroit team, at some point I feel like, they might, this streak may come to an end. They've played Philadelphia, Charlotte, Chicago, San Antonio, Atlanta, the Clippers, and Boston. I'm giving them a heck of a lot of credit for the Boston win, but, by far and away, that was the best team they'd played in that stretch. Now they're playing what I'd argue is the second best team. So I'll take Denver if we're getting plus money on the money line or at that +2.5 number. When it comes to what we have from a total here, I do think that this one could be a high-scoring game. I don't know if it gets all the way up to 237. I'm going to lean slightly towards the under, but I think this one probably ends up finishing, in the 230s. Like I'll give both these teams credit in terms of the way that they've been playing. Denver's defense hasn't been all that spectacular, right? And they've hit the over in 55% of their back-to-back games. And then Detroit's been playing at a crazy pace. And honestly, they've been playing good defense, but where I think that their defense is really good, which is down low, I think Denver's going to be able to answer today. So yeah, I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I don't think it gets to 237. So even though I give the offense a lot of credit, I'm still going to lean under just because I think this is more of like a 235 finish ultimately. A player prop spot that I may consider would be looking at Asar Thompson here, over 15.5 points plus rebounds. Now, he hasn't been really hitting this as of late, but in his last 10 games, he's averaging just under the mark there. It's 15.5 right now. I like his matchup here. I think he's going to be able to score, his kind of shot type and player profile should fit fairly well with cutting to the basket as well as some spot up opportunities. So yeah, I do like this spot for him. If you wanted to throw the assists in there, I don't mind it. He's hit 7 of his last 10 games if you look at the assists as well. So yeah, maybe that's a little bit of a pivot, but I think that he could just kind of be involved today against a team like Denver. I think that this is a good matchup for him. Is it one of my favorite props on the board? I would say no, but there is a lot of legitimacy behind it. So yeah, I guess I would consider that one, but keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we throw that in to the final plays. All right, next up, Brooklyn taking on Detroit. This is, I don't think it's one of the better games on the slate, but this should be a good game, right? Like, especially based on how both teams play and kind of operate on the floor. So, yeah, I'll give a little bit of credit to the chance that this is an entertaining one. Is it going to be, like I said, one of the better games on the slate? No. Look at the next game we have coming up, right? Boston, Cleveland. We have Memphis, New York. Like, there's a ton better games, but I do think that this one's worth getting the eyeballs on a couple times at least tonight, right? You have Brooklyn, who hasn't been playing the best basketball, lately, but if you the more and more you stretch out the sample size, last 10, last 15, they've been doing okay. They're 6-10 in their 6-4 in their last 10 games. That's tremendous. And 7-3 against the number, right? Now, Portland has won 3 straight games. They did play Utah, Charlotte, and Washington. So sure, those 3 teams maybe not all that special. I think that I immediately just kind of gravitate towards an under in this spot for the simple reason that I believe that this is a game in which both defenses are better than the offenses, like bar none in a sense. Now, Portland's defense hasn't been as, I guess I should say this. Portland's defense isn't as good as it was when they were on that absolute rampage, right? And they even allowed 120 plus to Washington the other night. But still, all in all, the pace that they play at is kind of misleading. Like they're the number 11 or 12, somewhere in that range, pace team over the last 10 games. But in the more recent last 3 games, they are playing as one of the best defenses in the league. Again, the competition has a lot to do with that. But ultimately, my point still stands true that I think the defense is anything that they can do offensively on the Portland side of things. I think Brooklyn should be able to stop defensively. And then flip it over to Brooklyn, I think Portland should be able to stop. So yeah, I don't mind an under 218 and a half in this spot. I would peg this one probably more along the the lines of like a 10, maybe like a 105 to 110 type of a game, right? So right in that 215 range. Where I would go, this would switch just based on who's home. I'm going to lean towards the Nets in this spot now. We do want to make note of the injuries. D'Angelo Russell is out. Clowney's out. On the other side of things, we may be seeing Denny Advin not play, and as well as Jeremy Grant. So that would just help the Brooklyn side of things because obviously Brooklyn's been learning how to play injured. I guess you can make the same argument for Portland, but Brooklyn more so. So yeah, it's Brooklyn or nothing in this game, but I would say if Portland was home and it was a 1 point spread, I'd probably be looking at Portland. So that gives you an idea of where I'm at in terms of like how confident I am, right, in this Brooklyn team. It's more so because they're home and both teams are playing decent, what I would call decent defense. So yeah, I'm gonna lean in that direction. In terms of what we have from player props, nothing much really jumping out to me in this spot. It's not the juiciest of play, but I would say maybe Tumani Kamara over 1.5 steals plus blocks. He's been crushing this line. I just think I don't have the line right now, but I believe it's gotten super juice. So yeah, that's probably something that we're not even able to end up rolling with juice wise. But I'll tell you what you can roll with. God, I love these transitions. Over on Sleeper Picks, they have a LeBron James 0.5 point square. And as I was putting this graphic together, I was like, wow, they have a LeBron number 6 graphic. That's a little interesting. I don't know if it means something or if it's good luck, whatever. But still, LeBron James, 0.5 points here. But what I think is the best deal that they have, and one of the best ones in the market right now, is that play $5, get $55 right away. And the way they do it is really cool. It's not just a lump sum of 55. Some people might like that. Some people might not. I actually like what they do. They give you 11 free rolls at $5 lineups. So you can just fire these things off. Some long shots, some safe ones, that type of thing. It's really, really cool, guys. And again, all you have to do as a new customer is place a $5 lineup and you get 11x of those. It's a no-brainer. What if you hit that first $5 lineup, right? Then it was just a free 11 extra $55. Like, I mean, it's a no-brainer, guys. Go check out Sleeper. That link will be down in the description as well as the pinned comment. You put multiple player props into an entry. That's what Sleeper is. But what's really cool about it is they don't have that, oh, well, this play got bumped or moved. No. They have more offerings and more alternate lines than any other app out there, making it really cool, and it kind of mimics all of the other lines like these sports books out there, right? So it's really cool, a great app. I've been on it for a couple years now. Go check it out. That link will be down in the description as well as the pinned comment. I highly recommend it. You'll get this LeBron James free square, right? 0.5 points tonight, but I think that play 5, get 55 is the deal of all deals right now. But let's jump back into these games. All right. We got Boston taking on the Cavs. It's going to be tough for me to not be biased in this one because I do think the Celtics have a really good shot tonight. But again, I'm a big Celtics fan. That got us into trouble when the Celtics played the Pistons. We got burned there. But ultimately, this seems like it's going to be a spot where another hard-fought game. Like if you look back at these two teams' histories, I guess barring anything that we saw last year, I guess, maybe postseason wise. Outside of that, everything's been super, super close, and these two teams are very competitive, right? This season, 120 to 117, 115 to 111, 112 to 105. Now, this is a low number at 2.5, and we've seen whoever ends up, being, I guess, not even, I was going to say whoever's at home fares well, but Boston beat Cleveland in Cleveland last time out. I'm going to lean towards the Celtics if everyone is healthy. Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown and Luke Cornett are on the injury report. I'm not kidding, guys. Even if that's how close I think these two teams are. That's even with my bias included, right? Even if Luke Cornett is out, I think that's a huge knock to the Celtics and a big up for Cleveland, a team that can really score really well in the paint, defend the paint well. Luke Cornett's been giving some valuable minutes to the Celtics. So, I mean, I'm sounding the psycho alert alarm, not because it's crazy to take the Celtics here. You can, like, if you take either team in this spot, I do think you can make a great argument. I'm taking the psycho alert alarm because I'm saying somehow, some way, my pick in this game may depend on Luke frickin' Cornett, right? That's what's psycho about it. But realistically, this is one of those games, and we can all admit it as sports fans and bettors. It's like, if you're at the bar telling someone that they're an idiot for picking a certain side in this game, odds are you're the idiot because you can make a good argument for either team here in this spot. The Celtics haven't been covering the paint all that well the last few games. Last 3 games, actually third worst in the entire league, but I do think that they should be able to shore that up if they are fully healthy. Cleveland, we know, is going to score from either the paint or from 3. They don't mix them much up with the mid-range or anything like that, but ultimately, both these teams should be able to, score in isolation. The Celtics may have trouble running the pick and roll, whereas Cleveland may have some good opportunities there, but the Celtics should have some really nice opportunities in the pull-up jumper department. So again, there's so many reasons for both these teams. Ultimately, I just think the Celtics, coming off of a loss now at home, Cleveland, they're on a massive win streak right now. Maybe the Celtics will take them down today. But again, there could be a little bias in this one. I do think that, it's not a biased take to take the Celtics, but hey, I'm in my own brain, right? I'm making excuses for myself. In terms of where we go total wise, so right now it's sitting at 232. I've seen a couple 232 and a halves out there, and I do envision this being a spot in which this line could move up a little bit, because how could you not think that way, right? Like, oh my God, these two teams have so much talent. But it's going to be another one of those spots where, yeah, maybe I'll get burned. Maybe I'll look like a big idiot, but I do think the defenses are almost better than the offenses. I hate to say that because, again, both of these offenses are phenomenal, but I'm going to trust what we have defensively in this spot. I think this one's more so in the range of like 226, 225. So, yeah, that's my story I'm sticking to. Give me the under 232 here. Now, player prop wise, it's really tough to find player props that, you absolutely love. But I am going to focus on some of those pull-ups. That's kind of where I see the Celtics having some really good opportunities. So I do like Jason Tatum maybe taking a peek at his three-pointers today. Right now, let's see if we can get the updated odds for that. So Tatum's threes, if we load, over 3.5 should be, let's see, we had this up earlier. Yeah, it's plus 110 right now. If you can still get plus money, I don't mind that. Last time he played Cleveland, he only had 3. I believe he went like 3 of 12 or something from the floor, though, right? Like, he could have made another one, shot 33% and kind of been out of there. So, yeah, I don't mind it. He's already he had 6 and 4 the other 2 games this season, so this could be a good spot. If you just want to look at Tatum's points, it is a game against Donovan Mitchell in which he likes to turn it on for. He had 33, and then 22. He just didn't shoot well. He shot 30% last time they played this team. They did win the game, but you know what I mean? Like, he didn't have the best shooting night. So yeah, if you like Tatum's points, sure, it's at 26.5, but I think I'd pivot to his threes. Now, a player prop that I'd look at on the other side of things and would be focusing on, I already kind of gave that little tidbit, right? I think that this is a spot in which Cleveland should be able to prosper fairly well in the pick and roll. So you could look at a couple different angles. You can go Donovan Mitchell, because he's going to go absolute balls to the wall against the Celtics team. He loves to do that. This season, 35, 35, 31. I think where I'd ultimately end up going, maybe a peek at Darius Garland. I want to make sure he's healthy and he's getting the minutes. I mean, last few games, he hasn't necessarily been playing a ton of minutes, but I do like this spot against him for sure. His last 2 games against the Celtics, 22 and 25 points. Right now, his line is at 18.5. I also don't mind his points plus assists. I think he can come off the pick and roll and, dime it up a little bit, but I think I'd lean over 18.5 points for him in this spot. The one thing I will say is the Celtics are playing really good defense against point guards lately, so maybe that hinders it. But I like Jason Tatum for plus money on the threes today. That's probably my favorite player prop spot. But then I would consider Garland or Mitchell. I think this is going to be, one of those games where, again, we've been pretty good at depicting or predicting, I should say, how the Cavs are going to work, and it's either rolling with, Mobley and Allen. It's that type of game, or it's a perimeter pick and roll game with Donovan and Garland. And I think it's going to be one of those perimeter games today. Atlanta taking on OKC. I know I usually say, oh my God, OKC ruins these because obviously it's so hard to go against them and stuff, but I think that OKC could absolutely dominate this game against Atlanta. Like, there's not really one part of Atlanta's game that I think can kind of slow down this OKC team. Even if you want to throw in, well, Atlanta's been really good at scoring in the paint lately, right? Well, they're going up against arguably, and maybe not even arguably, the best paint defense in the entire league, right? Atlanta, if they want to go and run any sort of isolation with Trae Young, OKC is phenomenal at stopping isolation. If they want to run the pick and roll, OKC phenomenal at that, right? The one angle could be catch and shoot jumpers, which Atlanta isn't even all that great at. So yeah, I don't really see many angles to make a case for Atlanta, even plus the 12.5. Who knows? Maybe I'm the idiot in the room, and then all of a sudden OKC's gonna, finally come back down to earth, because I wouldn't even include those 2 losses against Minnesota as like really big blemishes. Like, this team is absolutely rolling. Minnesota may have their number, but ultimately I do think that this is a team that's so much better. Before Atlanta was worse and OKC got this good, they played way early in the year. 128-104 win for OKC. So yeah, I may be laying the number today. Do I love the idea of that? No, it's a little bit too high. 12.5. I don't love, but I really can't get to the Atlanta side of things. Where I would go, though, if you don't like that number, I think a decent pivot here. Now, you're going to get a line that seems a little bit too high, but I think it is kind of right on. And if we can get this number, Seems a little bit too high. Sorry, you're going to get a high line because of the total. Now, you might be thinking the pace will be a little bit too high and quick, but I do like Atlanta's team total under. If you can get under 117.5, under 116.5, I think that could be a move today as well. In terms of where we go player prop wise, I don't mind some unders, on the OKC side of things. Even if you want to consider a Trae Young under, I think that he could have a decent amount of assists, because I think that they'll put a lot of pressure on him and he'll have to pass the ball. But again, if he passes into those catch and shoot situations, then maybe Trae gets a few assists. But I don't think I love him scoring today. I mean, player prop wise on the Thunder side of things, you can kind of pick your poison. I would actually consider some of these jump shooters versus the interior guys. But if you want to look at guys that do like to shoot from deep on the Thunder, I mean, outside of Shea, we could say, right? You're going to look at guys, I guess, Isaiah Joe, maybe Jalen Williams, the shooter, that type of stuff. So yeah, maybe that's a little bit pivot there as well. But yeah, maybe Isaiah Joe, if we can get lines on him, because he will get a few attempts, right? Like he's in above the break threes per game in the last 10. He's just behind Shea in terms of leading the team. Miami taking on, I almost said Atlanta. Miami taking on Indiana in this one. Miami coming off of a win against Atlanta. Indiana coming off of a win against Toronto here. Last time these two teams played was January 2nd. Pacers took that one. The time before that, the Pacers took it as well. Then the time before that, Miami ended up winning that one. I think these two teams match up fairly well. We take a peek at the injury report, and I would say just keep an eye on it because there's some, want to know type of spots there. Andrew Wiggins, Bam Adebayo on the Miami side of things, questionable to play. Now, these two teams, like I said, do match up fairly well, and what I mean by that is Miami's interior defense isn't terrible. That's where the Pacers like to score from, right? Miami, in terms of them liking to score, they've been shooting a ton of threes and scoring from three, I guess recently and even to some degree on the season. Indiana's actually been really good at defending the perimeter. So, again, when I see the two sort of preferred shot zones of both these squads kind of covered up, I think I immediately like an under. But I do think this one could get to like 226. So I will say my first and foremost prediction here and lean would be the under. But it's a pretty damn thin margin if I'm being completely honest. Like I said, I think this one's like a 226-ish type game. Well, damn, we have that line at 225.5 right now. So maybe it will move, maybe it won't. In terms of where I would go from a line perspective, though, and aside, I think with a sort of ugly game that we may be seeing on our hands here, that 4 points, it's 4.5 right now in some places as well, I don't think will hurt you. Now, the one thing that you can really say to counter that is, dude, this Miami team has not been playing well, and you can argue this Pacers team has been playing well. So I do see the sort of argument for that, but I'm thinking, again, the matchup's kind of too good on both sides for 4.5 points to not matter towards the end of the game, especially if Miami does sort of slow things down overall. They can play fast. They have played fast at home many times this year, so actually that would be good if Indiana kind of kicks up the tempo, which we know they'll want to do. Maybe Miami has a little bit of zhuzh to keep up with them, but if this game slows down, it's only going to benefit Miami overall. So yeah, I think this one's going to go under. I think Miami covers the number, and then no major player props that I'm loving here. Wanted to try and maybe get to Pascal Siakam, but I really don't love the matchup. He's either going to get Wiggins or Adebayo, you know what I mean? So I didn't really love that look. All right, I mentioned there's some good matchups on the board, and then there's some of these, I guess. Toronto taking on Chicago. Your guess is probably as good as mine in this one. One thing I will say is Toronto feels like they just have a little bit more want in them, which is nothing on paper to look at and say, hey, yeah, we should roll with that. But ultimately, they just seem like they're playing a little bit harder. They've been pretty damn bad against the number. Like both teams overall in their last 10 are 2-8 straight up and 5-5 against the number, right? But, again, I've literally watched Chicago walk up and down the court multiple times. Vucevic probably not playing in this one. Pat Williams may not be playing. Actually, Pat Williams definitely not playing, right? Ayo Dosunmu may not be playing. On the other side, Scotty Barnes is questionable. That's going to be huge. Still no Brandon Ingram from them. But I think I like Toronto as underdogs in this spot. But again, I started this off by saying your guess is as good as mine. With all these other games on the board today, I don't know if we need to necessarily dive in to Chicago, Toronto, but for the plus money, if we even get a better plus money number, it might be worth a little bit of a throw in because, again, I do think that the Chicago team is kind of ready to pack it in, whereas Toronto has a young talent and young team, and they're kind of still looking like they have some fire under their ass, right? So give me Toronto. Total-wise, it's a little bit too high. If I even say one team may be phoning it in at this time, I think the 235 is a little bit high. At the very most, and this is where we have this projected at right now, I think that this is probably like a 233 type game. So that's already a couple points of margin, and I think it could even be slower than that. So I'm going to lean under in this one, and that honestly does have a chance of being a final play. I kind of chat on the idea of like investing in this game out of all the other games, but when you think it's going to be bad basketball, that could be the case. The one thing that could definitely keep us off that is the fact that the defenses aren't good, right? And if Chicago hits their shot, we know they can kind of up the pace, which pace wouldn't be good in this case. Didn't mean to rhyme there. I'll take Toronto and the under. And this is definitely a spot in which I honestly, there may be some good player prop looks in here. Didn't really even spend too much time on it with a big slate. So if you have anything in this game, go ahead and let me know. Memphis taking on New York. We want to make sure that this injury report gets ironed out before really doing anything in here. Desmond Bane, he's on the injury report for Memphis, questionable. Not doubtful, not probable, right in the middle, questionable, which is what we love. Just the NBA leaving us in limbo here. On the other side of things, same exact situation for Josh Hart, big deal, right? And Cat, so Karl-Anthony Towns. But Mitchell Robinson may be playing, which would obviously be a big boost. They've kind of waiting for him. I don't know how much long-term Mitchell Robinson's going to help this team, like playoffs-wise and whatnot, but man, is that a big body that they've been without for a long time. It's tough to look at the Knicks with a plus number next to them and not want to roll with them, but at the same time, even if Cat plays and Hart plays, like they're not 100%, and this is Memphis at the crib, right? Like Memphis is really good at home. They're 22-6 this season. We look at their cover rate at home this year, 64.3. So as much as I really do kind of want to lean in the direction of New York because they're getting a plus number, I think I have to go favored here, even if we want to look at the dashboard, and I'll explain how to get access to our Guy Boston Sports dashboard in just a second. But you can see here, New York is going to want to shoot in the paint. We know that, right? Well, okay, well, whoop-de-doo. Like, this is a pretty decent Memphis team at defending the paint, especially kind of outside of the restricted area, which isn't as important because New York likes to shoot in the restricted area. I worry a little bit about Memphis actually in the paint. Like, if Karl-Anthony Towns has to go up against Zach Edey, lights out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't love that. He's going to get to the line a ton, but hopefully some of these other guys, Jaren Jackson maybe takes some, that type of thing. Desmond Bane can play some good defense, prevent guys from getting in the paint if he plays, right? So again, we're waiting on the injury report, but I think that the offensive strategy of the Knicks just shouldn't match up too well against this Memphis team. And then on the flip side, Memphis, you know, they've been shooting the ball fairly well. Would I ever say they're a great shooting team? I wouldn't say that, but this Knicks perimeter defense has been pretty damn bad, and Memphis does like to get to the paint. We already know that. The Knicks interior defense hasn't been all that great lately either. So if the Knicks defense was playing like the Knicks defense of maybe a month and a half ago, I think this one would be a tougher decision for me, but as of right now, I think I just got to go Memphis minus the points at the house. I think that that's going to be the direction to lean into. Before we do jump into the total or player props, I'll talk to you guys about how to get access to the dashboard here over on the Guy Boston Sports site, which is where the final plays are. So the pinned comment will take you right there. Members area, right? You head over, hover over it, head over to NBA dashboard. We're not logged in right now, so it's going to say, hey, you need a membership required, which we have multiple memberships available. If you want to view it with a membership so we can log in and show you what it'll look like, you get this dashboard, which you can open up each and every day. You'll get this. You could zoom in, you could print it out, whatever you want, download it, right? You get each and every game broken out in a visual format, so you can kind of get a sense of where this game's going to go, how it's going to be played, that type of thing. We have things like, obviously, team matchups, and some things are still importing, right? But team shooting zones, we have where they like to shoot from, even if, you know, the percentages don't line up. We have, obviously, where they like to shoot from. We have pace involved, against the numbers. So definitely some good stuff, guys. If you do want to check it out, again, that's over on the Guy Boston Sports site, GuyBostonSports.com. Head over to the members area and become a member. Multiple membership options available as of right now. But let's get back into this game, because we have a total sitting at 245, which you may think is really high, but ultimately I don't know how high it is when you consider the factors here, right? You have a Memphis team who's playing really fast, going up against a Knicks team that has literally the second worst defensive efficiency rating over the last 3 games. So you sit there and you're like, maybe it's not all that high, right? I think I might look at the over in this one, or potentially a pivot to a Grizzlies team total over, just due to the fact that, yes, we do have a very fast-paced team on one side. The Knicks, though, not fast-paced, and their defense, kind of contributes or I would say promotes the idea of a Memphis scoring a lot, but Memphis's defense on the other end is actually pretty good. So do the Knicks have offensive success? Not necessarily sure, especially when you're playing with fire that your best player, Karl-Anthony Towns, or second best, depending if we have some Brunson fans out there, you could be out. That could be a tough situation, right? So I'm going to lean Memphis as well as maybe their team total over, but I think that this number's high for a reason, and it makes sense why it is high. Last time they played, this is a 143 to 106 game, so it soared over that line. That's another reason, too, by the way. The Knicks spanked Memphis. Like, you don't think Memphis, who is already a gritty team, isn't coming into this one being like, screw these guys? I think that we could see some fire from Memphis tonight. Phoenix taking on New Orleans. This was actually close to being a play we rolled with yesterday. It was going to be New Orleans +8. They ended up winning the game by 8, which wasn't that shocking if you kind of listen back to what we said. I also said I really like Zion's matchup, right? He finally played over 30 minutes, and he went for 27 and 11. So everything we talked about in this damn game ended up coming true. We just didn't roll with any of it, so I can't victory lap or anything like that. But ultimately, I think I see it going the same way. Now, you guys know, and this has worked and hasn't worked multiple times this year, but every time we have one of these games in which they just play the same exact matchup the night before or, a couple nights ago, this case the night before, it's tough to like the same thing 2 times in a row and it happened, right? That said, I don't think Phoenix, even after a loss, deserves to be 7-point favorites. Like, this team will figure out a way to mess things up. They always do. They're not a very good squad right now. 1, especially against the number, but 2, just in general. Like, this is a team that has Booker, Durant, Bradley Beal, and they're 27-32 this year. Like, what are we doing, right? They just let a New Orleans team who had only won 4 times on the road. They'd only won 4 times on the road this year. They just beat them by 8. They reversed the spread. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to lean New Orleans. I don't think I get it down again, but this Phoenix team is just in a tough spot. If Phoenix decides to show a pair of, if they're like, hey, our cojones are right here on the table, look at them, we're about to play some good basketball, then I want to see that before I assume it's going to happen. You know what I mean? So if they do that, great. We'll know that they have that capability, but for right now, that is not in their little phone book there. In terms of total-wise, I think this one does slow down. We did see, like I said, a decently high-scoring game. It was 240 yesterday. I think this one does kind of come back down to earth a little bit. I'm going to lean under, and that's honestly where I'd go in this game, probably even before the Pelicans. Like, I wish we just rolled with it yesterday and didn't have to worry about it, but I'm going to lean towards the under in this one. I would tell you that Zion's another good look, but I don't know if I can really get behind that 2 nights in a row. Like, I feel like the way he's been kind of up and down, caring, not caring, getting the minutes, not getting the minutes, everything went perfect yesterday. Now he's on a back-to-back. Would it even surprise me if Zion gets ruled out? No. So that's where I would look, but no player props outside of that I'm all over right now. All right, Utah taking on Minnesota. You might be looking at that number being like, why is it so low? Well, Minnesota's on a back-to-back, but also Minnesota, and Anthony Edwards was questionable. He ended up playing, so keep an eye on their injury report, but also definitely keep an eye on their injury report for the reason of Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert could be coming back. But you got to keep an eye on the Utah injury report. This is like the injury bowl, right? Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins also could all be coming back. So this is just a spot in which, if you want to value the big men for Minnesota, then go and take that, right? Because I think that this is still a spot where you can roll with Minnesota, but we want to make sure they're playing. We want to make sure Ant-Man is healthy. They're great on back-to-backs this year. 60% of their games they've covered. Utah, though, yes, like Utah, when healthy, can play some competitive basketball. They are the home team. Minnesota coming off of, again, a game yesterday, which, sure, that could take a little bit out of them. So I still think that Minnesota's probably the side that I'd like. They're the far better team. It's not like that game was super exerting yesterday, right? Like, Anthony Edwards played 26 minutes. They probably, in thought of back-to-back situation, that type of thing. So, yeah, if we get the big men to go, I don't really care about the Utah guys coming back, but it definitely gives them a little bit of a boost. But at a -3.5, -3, I'll take this Minnesota team who, even though they got beat last night, I'm still thinking are starting to play a little bit better basketball. The total we have right now, 225.5. Utah's going to want to run, and they have a bad defense. But what if Minnesota's defense really controls this one, right? Like Utah, who's going to shoot a lot of threes. Minnesota's perimeter defense is pretty damn good. So I think I'm going to actually lean towards the under, but it could be a Utah team total under because I don't really want to trust the Utah defense overall. And with the assumption that we may be getting John Collins, Markkanen, and Sexton, I think we might get a decent line for their team total, whereas I don't think those guys come back and just fully jump right back in either. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm going to lean towards an under, Utah team total under here. I mentioned, the perimeter defense. I think this could be a decent spot to go ahead and kind of like the opposite side of what we might see for, I guess I would say a lot of people who like this guy, but I don't know if a lot of people are going to be on this. I like the under 2.5 threes for Larry Markkinen. Right now, I believe you can get right around even money, which is good. Last time he played this team, he did have 3 threes. That was back in January. He went 3 of 10, shot 30%, but that was in 31 minutes. I don't know if he comes back from injury and plays 30 plus minutes. And I just think that this is going to be a decent spot for him to kind of get some clamps, whether he gets the Jaden McDaniels, matchup and that type of thing. Like, I think we could see some decent performance, defensively from this Minnesota team. So I'd take a peek at that. It stinks because we had been looking at Markkinen's under 3.5 threes. The fact that it's 2.5 now, the fact that he could hit 3 and we'd get burned. Whereas if he'd been healthy, if he'd been rolling, we probably got that 3.5 line. That kind of stinks, but it is what it is. All right, good one here. We do have the Lakers on a back-to-back, but they are at home, and I think that could go a long way. We want to make sure that this is a healthy Clippers team, though, right? Norm Powell looks like he could be coming back. That's the only injury to note. And then Rui Hachimura may not be in this one, which is a big blow to this Lakers squad. Ultimately, I think that this is a spot in which this line at 4.5 makes sense right where it is, depending on the movement. So if this goes to 5, I start to like the Clippers more. And if it drops, I actually do like the Lakers. I don't think the Lakers are in a great back-to-back situation. They've only covered in 33.3, so 1/3 of their games in back-to-back games this year. Whereas the Clippers, on the other hand, when they have a rest advantage over their opponent, they've covered in 73% of games. So yes, there's definitely a strong advantage towards the Clippers. But the Lakers, on the other hand, where they kind of weigh it out, they've been playing way better basketball. 8-2 straight up in their last 10, 7-3 against the numbers. So that's where I get kind of worried. But I will mention that this is a Clippers team that obviously should be able to control the paint game, which is pretty massive in this spot. Now, the Lakers, with Luka's addition, have become a lot more of a shooting team, so we want to see some Clippers defense, step up from out there. But they should be able to handle the isolation, should be able to handle the pick and roll, some of these things that Luka likes to do. So, yeah, I'm going to lean Clippers for now. I want it at like 5. In fact, even if it's still at 4.5 and we really want to get this one down, if we really do, I'd probably buy the half point. Just ultimately, I could see this being a game in which, we might see the Lakers still win it by 5, but that 4.5 may not have fully got there. Right now, we actually have this pegged at, wow, I did not even mean to do this. We have this pegged at 115 to 110. So that 5 would legitimately do exactly what I was saying right in our Score Predicts model. ScorePredicts.com has all the games in terms of what we have based on our algorithm to help guide your research. We also have player projections versus the sportsbook numbers. ScorePredicts.com. It's spelled Predix in terms of how to predict, in terms of how to spell predicts. Go ahead and check that out. But yeah, I think this one's going to go over, as well as the Clippers taking that one. In terms of player props, so I mentioned that we might see some good defense out of the Clippers. So realistically, don't want to consider Luka. If I were to consider Luka, it'd probably be in some sort of an under fashion, but we don't even know who's necessarily going to be playing in this game yet, right? And also on the other side, I think Norm Powell may be coming back, so that makes it tough. One spot to, I guess, consider would potentially be the idea of Zubats, just because this Lakers team has been so bad, in terms of having a center. I wouldn't even say defensively against center, just having a center. They've actually been pretty good at preventing points to centers, but down low, we should still see Zubac be able to play pretty well. So that's where I'd go. But again, there's so many injuries that we want to make sure are or aren't playing that this may be one to kind of wait out, or don't kill your bankroll on a Friday just assuming things, right? Like that type of thing can be a benefit as well. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, go ahead and comment 38 down below. Truly do appreciate it. Like I said, I'm going to be traveling the next couple days, so keep that in mind. We'll have videos, some hybrid version of videos, but nonetheless, that's what we got for you today. Keep an eye on the pin comment before the final plays. Go check out Sleeper, get that Play 555 offer. We'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.